Hey, good day, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Pirkei Avos with Rabbi Chaim Coffman. It's always such an honor to have a learned gentleman of his character share with us such a lovely topic, such as the ethics of the fathers. This is something we all need to grip, and I know that we're only just starting to touch on it, and it's something I want to encourage all old B'nai Noach to get out there and look into and read and learn from the trusted rabbis. We're kind of transitioning today from Mishnah, from the first Mishnah, part 2, to part 3, and in the first last one, we talked about how Shimon HaTzadik taught about the foundations of the world, the three foundations of the world, that the world stands on Torah and on service of Hashem and on deeds of kindness. And Rabbi Coffman explained a lot of that. But today we're going to be transitioning to number 3, which has to do with a gentleman named Antignos Ishoho. I'm sure Rabbi Chaim will say it properly, but he begins to teach us how we are to serve. And so it gets a little more in depth, but I want to encourage you all to even look at this course yourselves in your own time. But like I said, it's such a joy and an honor to have Rabbi Coffman share it with us in his own unique way, because no one shares it quite like he does. So without any further ado, Rabbi Coffman, how are you today? And thank you so much for being with us and sharing with us more. We appreciate what you've done so far. How are you?
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm just going to quote an old Three Stooges line. He said, Jenny called me a gentleman. He said, and they say, gentlemen, and they look and they go, who walked in? So I've been called a lot of things. Definitely a lot of things. Gentleman, not exactly sure that, that exactly fits. But in any case, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to be here. We're in the third Mishnah, which is actually the segue that we spoke in the first Mishnah. The first chapter of the first Mishnah was about oral tradition, right? Where it comes from, how the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu can hold everything, how the fact that Joshua can hold everything. Come the elders, can't hold everything. Come the men of the great assembly, they have to have chains, right? They have to have chains to pass it down.
And then the Tannim.
Right? Yeah, they need a lot of people, right, in order to give it over. Otherwise, certainly would have been forgotten. That's why we're allowed to write it, to write it down. It comes on the second Mishnah. And says, so we talked about oral tradition. Then we say, okay, let's look at the world. What does the world stand by? What does the world stand on? 3 major pillars. You got Torah. Right? The fact that God created the world only if the Jewish people were going to accept the Torah. Right? We spoke about that. Everything was sort of in flux until the 6th day. Remember Yom HaShishi? Right? Why the extra Hay? Right? Because Hay means the 5th of Sivan. 5th of Sivan, when the Jews accept the Torah. The whole discrepancy in the date. Right? But the with all the pogroms and everything that went on, for the Jewish people, we know that the only thing that kept them together was Torah. Right, then you have the service to God. So we had 2 definitions. Service to God was about the sacrificial system, right? And we spoke about that, how that upheld the world. How the Vilna Gaon said he only wanted to see what someone looked like before and after they gave a sacrifice, because that sacrifice in some way should have been you. Right, so therefore you should have died instead of that animal. We spoke about the animal rights activists. We hit about that, and we spoke about Chesed. We spoke about how the world stands on Chesed. So we mentioned that in the Jewish world, in the Orthodox community, anywhere you go in the world, they have the Gemachim, what we call Gimilus Chesed, for all kinds of things they lend for free. Okay, you have to replenish it, medicine, if you need medicine. Let's say, your challah is burnt, you need, challahs for Shabbos. You gotta mow your lawn, mow your lawnmower's on the fritz, borrow someone's lawnmower, get an email, get a fax. It's like, exponentially, you don't have that in any community. Exponentially, the Jewish people, have all the rights on it, because there's no other community in the world that lends things for free. in order to use. So when we do acts of loving kindness, brings light to the world, tremendous amount, of light to the world, because you're doing acts of loving kindness for what reason? Because that's what you're supposed to do, right? It's not the same as, let's say, one act of, great act of kindness is helping bury the dead, right? Because that for sure you're not getting any reward, and we're going to speak about reward in a little bit, right? But you're not getting any reward for that. Why are you doing it? Because it's a mitzvah to do, right? So we do things, we help others, not thinking, what am I going to get in return?
Right.
That's called a bloodsucker. Because you think, I'm going to do this, but the only reason I'm doing it is because I could get something in the future, right? The person does that, that's not chesed. That's called being selfish, right? That you're certainly not allowed to do. So these are three major pillars, that the world stands on. And now, the Mishnah is going to go on and explain, more things that have to do with Musar. They have to do with ethics. You have to understand where things come from. You have to understand the chain of command, right? You have to understand what the world is held up by, right? And people think, it's held up because we're working, we're doing this, we're doing that. It has nothing to do with that, right? It has to do with these three pillars. And now we're going to get into the nook and cranny about ethics. So it says in Tiginus, the Ish Socho, right? Leader of Socho, they translate, received tradition from Shimon HaTzadik, right? From Shimon the righteous. So we used to say, remember, right? A lot of times it's going to say in the Mishnah that he used to say, it was like that means it was a common saying. Right? He used to say, be not like servants, serve their master for the sake of receiving reward. Instead, be like servants who serve their master, not for the sake of receiving reward. And let the awe of heaven be upon you. Right? So, simple explanation. Obviously, nothing simple here, but in general, why do we want to serve? Why do we want to serve God? Right? We want to serve God for one specific purpose. The service of God is going to be because we believe it's the right thing. We know in the end we're going to get reward. Right? I had somebody when I was in Egypt touring, someone, whatever, the non-Jew, said that, why is anybody going to do anything, any mitzvahs? Because they're going to get reward. Right? But when you talk about Olam Haba in the next world, it's not mentioned anywhere specifically. Not in the Torah, not in the writings, not in the prophets. Right? So it's an interesting thing. The interesting thing about the Muslims, lahavdil, make a big differentiation here. All they speak about is the next world. Right? I'm going to get this in the next world, blow myself up, get 70 virgins. And if a woman does it, I don't know what she gets. I know exactly what she gets, but okay. They all speak about the next world. And everything's about the next world. Boy, what a peaceful religion. Unbelievable peaceful religion. So this non-Jewish guy says to me, but look at your own religion. Isn't it true you're going to get reward? So why are people doing it? So, well, either they're doing it because they're afraid they're going to fry in hell forever. We'll speak about that. Right? But the reality is, okay, that may be true. But I'll tell you the following story. Someone told me, when I die, I'm going 6 feet under. So I said, I hope for your sake you're right. Because if I'm right, you're in big trouble. So this person asked me, of course it had to be a family member, right? Family member says, won't mention who. Family member says, what would happen? What would happen? You led this austere life, like thinking like I'm a monk, and I live in an ashram, and I haven't spoken for like 5 years, and we're going, like, come on, I live in this world, right? Like someone said to me, you like to pray all day, I like to play golf. I'm like, first of all, I don't pray all day. In the morning, it'll take 40 minutes, 45 minutes. If you read the Torah, it'll take a little bit longer. The afternoon and evening service is 15 minutes, a pop. Half an hour, afternoon and evening service, 45 minutes in the morning. That ain't all day. Any case, I digress. So this person asked me, so what will happen? You'll find out that when you die, same thing will happen to you as happens to a dog. What happens to a dog? A dog only has a nefesh behemoth, only has the animalistic soul. So what happens to a dog, even if a person got reincarnated into a dog? Not the subject for now. But what happens if the dog dies? My language goes, poof! That's it. No haba, no nothing. It dies. Right? This is what would happen. You find that out. And when you die, nothing happens. So what about all the years? All the years you did all these things. You kept Shabbos, you kept kashrus, you kept all these mitzvahs. You taught all these people and it was a bluff. Now, obviously it's not true, right? But I'm just sort of embellishing what he said or whatever, what this person said. So I said, even if you're right, which I don't think, but I said, even if you're right, you find me any other system. First of all, that you can pass down to the next generation on a regular basis that works and that gives you the most meaning in life. So even if it's all not true, God forbid.
God forbid.
Find me a better system. So says the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, be not like servants who serve their master for the sake of receiving reward. What's the word for reward? Over here, the word is pras. Normally we say you get a schus, you get a merit, right? Or something like that. The word pras is a little bit strange, right? It means reward, and it means something that you're going to give to someone even though you're not obligated. For example, you may give something to a small child. You may give them a gift. Do you have to give them a gift? No. You tell the kid, play with the chair. Play with something else. I have to buy you a gift, right? You buy your wife something. Do I have an obligation to buy my wife anything? I don't have an obligation to. It may enhance the relationship, but I don't have an obligation to. Right? A slave. If a person had a slave, I have to buy him a gift. What do I have to buy him a gift for? Right? You're not obligated to give it to them, but it's a nice idea. It's a nice gesture. If a person has workers, Jewish, non-Jewish, doesn't matter, right? And you give them a gift, give them a gift card, give them a bonus, whatever. That makes them more endeared to you. Okay, so that maybe it's an ulterior motive, right? But when a person does something as a nice gesture, this is what it means. I don't have an obligation to do it. It might be a good thing. It might enhance a relationship. Obligation? I mean, your wife may say, you're darn right it's an obligation. Well, you might get the frying pan across the head.
Especially at anniversary.
Right, exactly. So my anniversary, I can never forget it because it falls out the same day my father died. Right? The yard side when my father died. So it's like, it's bittersweet, right? In many ways. Any case, even if someone gave a gift to somebody, right? Even if you're going to get this gift, right? If you're going to get this gift, is that the only reason you're going to be friends with this person? Because they gave you something? In other words, if I'm going to serve God, the novelty is that we get reward. Why? Because we're going to see a Mishnah later. Right? I think the Avos brings this out in Duties of the Heart. That he says that you think you deserve reward. What does the Mishnah later say in Pirkei Avos? Was it saying the ethics of our fathers? If you learned a lot of Torah, don't think you're so great. Because that's what you were born to do. If that's what you're born to do, so you have a chutzpah to say, I deserve reward. Why do I deserve reward? God says, if you do this, fine, you get reward. If you don't do it, you're going to get punished. Right? All good things will happen if you do it. Bad things will happen if you don't do it. why does God have to give it to me? God could easily say, right, get on my, I forgot my George Burns glasses, right, put on my George Burns glasses, my fancy mustache, and I would say, okay, this is God speaking, why do I owe you spit? I don't owe you anything. I commanded you to do this. You want reward? So what is it saying, the duties of the heart? Why do you get reward? Because God does chesed. God does an act of loving kindness. He doesn't owe you.
Exactly.
Doesn't owe you anything. You're obligated. If I'm obligated to do it, you say, where's the reward? Gimme. What are you, crazy? What do you mean, where's the reward? I don't deserve anything. And if you learned a lot of Torah and you think you know so much, think about it's a drop in the bucket. And you pat yourself on the back saying, oh, look how much I know. God says, you know how much more there is to know? But that's what you're created to do.
Designed,
that's what you're created to do. So comes on the Mishnah over here and says, then why am I going to serve God? I'm going to serve God because I love him.
Oh, yes.
Not to receive reward. Even though I'm not going to receive reward. Look at all the great things God does. I don't know him. The reason we serve God is because it's about love. Why is it about love? Because we say every day, Jewish people say, in the first paragraph of the Shema, you say, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Right? Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And then you say, V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. A little bit of Hebrew here. V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha, b'kol levavcha, chol nafshecha, v'chol meodecha. You say you're going to love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your might. Now, the word v'ahavta, a little bit of grammar here. The word v'ahavta, the root is aleph hey beis, or hey beis. There's a question what the root is. But the root aleph hey beis means to love. The word hey beis, hav, in Aramaic means to give. So if you want to love God, v'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha, you are going to love the Lord your God. How do you get there? How do you get there? You get there by doing things, by love.
Rabbi, I've heard another rabbi expound on this like a musician, okay? One that spends, hours and days and years perfecting their musical talents because they love the music, versus, say, a musician that just does it to be heard by the crowd. They love the accolades of the crowd.
Right.
They're doing it for the wrong motive when they're just doing it to be seen by the crowd and be heard, when in reality they're supposed to, grow in that. And so I heard a rabbi liken it between somebody who just learns and loves and grows in their who they are, not doing it because of the accolades. Does that make any sense?
It does. I think most people, though, they may love music, right? They certainly may love music, but what do they love more? They love to perform.
Right.
They want
big hams.
There are people that have this talent, and have this knack, and it's it is an unbelievable thing. The Vilna Gaon of Elijah Vilna says one of the highest levels is Shar Nagina. Right, it's the gate of music, right? But obviously it has to be proper music. It can't be this garbage that we hear today, most of it, right? But in general, a person can be uplifted tremendously, can raise himself to higher spiritual levels through this, right? But I think most people, even if they have a great voice and people enjoy it or whatever, how many of them don't let it go to their head? I mean, you're talking about ultra-Orthodox Jews who are good musicians, who are proper musicians, and they sing and they got great voices and they give concerts. And, I'm not saying they're not all acting for the sake of heaven. I mean, obviously, trying to make a living also, right? But in the end, it's God-given talent. I would say in theory, you got such a God-given talent, what do you need to share it for? Okay, so you want to make songs. You want to write up songs, you want to put out albums, you want to put out discs. You have to go out and perform also. So you'll say it's a way to make a living. I get it. But there's something about being on stage. There's something about being in the limelight. I'm not coming to degrade anybody who's in the music profession by any stretch. I'm just saying it's something that people would have to be careful of, because it's very easy, you sell out a place or whatever, and everyone's cheering and everyone's loves it and everyone's into it. How do you not let it go to your head? Very hard thing. Very, very hard thing. Uh-huh. Right. Right. I mean, the reason I do the show, I got 10 million followers, so it's going straight here. Going straight up here. Any case, right? What is the Tana over here teaching? Our approach to service of God has nothing to do with reward. The approach was to service to God is because I believe it's the right thing to do. It's going to make me a better person. If I wear a sweater that doesn't have wool and linen in it, what we call shatnez, it helps me draw closer to God. It doesn't make sense logically. But God's telling you, do this, you're going to have a connection to me. Kosher food laws by Jews. It's going to affect your soul. Why? Because whatever it is, right? Science hasn't proven it. Doesn't matter. But God says, I want you to eat these things and not eat these things. Because it's going to make you a better person. Obviously, the ethical things make more sense. Right? It's going to see. Now, the question over here is, and it's a mind-boggling thing, is that if you serve God because of reward, what did the Mishnah say? Right? The Mishnah said, be not like servants who serve the master for the sake of receiving reward. Be like servants who serve the master not for the sake of receiving reward. So what if someone says, you know what? I'm afraid I'm going to fry in hell forever. So therefore, I want to do the right thing. And I want what's coming to me later. I want the merit later. So the question is, you're not serving for the right purpose. If I don't serve for the right purpose, is that forbidden? So the answer is it's not forbidden. A person can be truly righteous, even through ulterior motives, but there's a much higher level to serve. The higher level to serve is even if I don't get any reward at all because I believe it's the right thing to do. Why do I say it's a mind-boggling idea? Because if a person serves and they do these mitzvahs and they work on not speaking Lashon Hara, speaking badly against others, and all these things, and what happens? What happens is that they're going to serve. They're going to serve because I'm getting reward later. Forget about punishment. We'll get to punishment. Right? But they believe, rightly so, they should get reward for what they do. Now, if they only serve because they're going to get reward, why is that permissible? They're serving for ulterior motives. Right? It would seem, we'll just take this logically further, that a person can make a condition whether to serve God if there's a benefit. In other words, maybe eating 35 pounds of matzah in 2.5 minutes, trying to whistle Dixie when your mouth is totally dry, that doesn't seem such a great purpose, right? But if a person feels they're going to make a tanai, a condition, and they're going to say, I'm going to serve because I'm going to get the reward. Now, let's follow the logic. No Kabbalah, right? We're not even talking oral law. The Karaites, all you Karaites out there, you're going to love this. And that is that even if there's no reward, what would I say? That I don't have to serve him. God forbid. In other words, I make the logical argument. If I'm going to serve on condition, I'm going to get reward. If I'm not going to get reward, I'll give God the proverbial finger and I'll say, screw you, God forbid. And I'll say, I'm not serving. That's it. But there's one major problem with this. It makes no sense. You don't make conditions. There are no conditions. Right? God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. He went to all the nations. None of the nations wanted it. Comes to the Jewish people. What do the Jewish people say? Na'aseh v'nishma. We will hear and we will do. God said, you want to know what's written in it? They said, no. You have a track record. We don't care. Right? But seemingly, God forced them into it. Right? The Talmud says, a little bit of oral law. He put a mountain over them and say, if you want the Torah, good. If not, I'm going to bury you. Right? That's why in the time of Achashverosh, in the time of Purim, they had to receive the Torah anew. Right? They had to receive the Torah through Ava, through love, not by being forced. That's the whole thing.
Right.
That's the whole thing. But here, the opposite logic doesn't make any sense. In other words, you're going to say, I'm not going to get reward. I don't have to serve you. But you don't see that in the Torah. It doesn't make sense. Right? So that's one way. One way of looking at it. Some explain, don't serve God on condition to not receive a reward. Means a person won't do mitzvahs on condition, but rather they're going to serve God for the sake of rewards, even though the reward in the future is going to be for that. In other words, what's the point here? The point is, just like a slave is going to fulfill the will of his master, because whatever the master tells him to do, that's what he's got to do. Even though in Judaism, when there were slaves, they got rehabilitated. A person couldn't treat their slave, like a dog. They had to give him the best food, give him the best bed, right? It was for rehabilitation. So just like a slave wants to do the will of his master, so too we have to do what God wants. Now, why do we have to do what God wants? Obviously because he said this is what you have to do. But we do it because of all the chesed, of all the acts of loving kindness that God does for us. You go, well, what does God do for me? My life's a misery. Life is hard. Everyone has it hard, right? In different ways. You're going to say, where's the chesed? Got a roof over your head. We're not living in the streets, right? We're not in India living in the street, living on the street. We got air, all right? Might be polluted, but we have air, right? It's free. We got water. We got food. We're not starving. There's a lot of chesed. Tremendous amounts. The fact that the earth is exactly where it is, it'd be a little bit closer to the sun, we'd be incinerated. If we'd be a little bit further away, we'd be like Pluto, right? It'd be an ice tundra, even though Pluto got demoted, right? You're probably aware of that, not a planet anymore. Pluto got demoted. Anyway, God is an unbelievable amount of chesed. So just like, go ahead.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it sounds like there's a very applicable point here. Specifically, I think B'nai Noah can grow from, because it sounds like you're saying there's no prohibition to not do it for reward, but there's no prohibition against not doing it for no reward. Or it sounds like you're describing a very, very fine line that B'nai Noach need to understand when it comes to forming new religions. They're prohibited from forming new religions. That's all the rabbis agree on, but how that factually works. And I think what you're describing, when people in this Mishnah are doing it this way or that way, for reward or not for reward, absolutely saying it's our tradition to not do it for no reward or our tradition to do it for reward. There's no prohibition against either one of those, but you're explaining the actual morality behind it. Is that where we're at?
Right, but there is a major difference. The difference is that if I serve God for reward, it's a much lower level. Right? If I don't serve him for reward, we're doing it because we believe it's the right thing to do, then obviously it's a much higher level. Right? But even for a Noahide, if they understand they're going to have a portion of the world to come now, it may not look the same as a Jew because they have less things to do. They certainly don't have as many mitzvahs, no question. right? But at the end of the day, if they've been lied to and they've been duped for years, and they come out of Christianity, paganism, whatever, whatever it is, so also applies. So even if you tell them, listen, you're not going to get anything, right? When you die, you go like a dog, right? Nothing happens afterwards. No reward. They're going to say, but this makes so much absolute sense. I don't even care if I get reward. It doesn't really matter because this is the only thing I've ever seen that makes perfect sense.
The right thing to do.
The right thing to do, right? If not, then what? So it is a much higher level. But I don't transgress. That's the point. It just means it's a lower level, right? But again, as this non-Jew told me, he said, but most people are going to stay on that path because they want to get the reward, right? But that's only a quarter true. They're going to stay on that path, hopefully, because they don't want to get punished. Getting punished and getting reward are two different things, right? If a person's afraid they're going to get punished, you are not going to do certain things. You might try and make some loopholes, whatever, but you're not going to do certain things because you're afraid you're going to get whooped. And that no one wants to do. Now, it's an interesting thing. Antigonus Ish Socho had two students. He had two students, Sadok and Baitos. Now, Sadok and Baitos, they are known as the Tzadukim and the Baitusim. Sounds kind of funny. What are the Tzadukim? The Tzadukim and the Baitusim do not believe in Torah Shebaal Peh. They do not believe in oral law. Right? They are Karaites. Now, they were students of Antigonus. And they explained the Mishnah, because they were heretics. They explained the Mishnah that there is no reward or punishment. That when everybody dies, you die like a dog. Poof. Nothing happens. So they were heretics. Now, if a person in that world, you have to remember, right? You have the rabbis and you had them. And they fought against the rabbis tooth and nail. Now, if they hold, which is heretical, because it's one of the 13 principles of faith according to the Rambam, right, that everyone agree on, that God has the ability to reward and punish. States clear all over the Torah, all over Tanakh. God has the ability to reward and punish. You do this, good. You don't do this, you're going to get punished. What did they say? No such thing. No such thing.
Is that where the sect of the Sadducees came from?
Yeah. Came from them. Now, they were going head to head against the rabbis and contradicted them. So they knew they were going to stand out. They knew they were going to have issues. So what did they do? They made a war. They made a war against the rabbis, and they taught their students this heresy. Now, obviously, it's always never good to fight against the rabbis because you lose. So how many Karaites are there left today? Not too many. Right? So, whatever. You want to tell me they're 100, 500, 1,000? Doesn't matter. They disappeared, basically. Now, the question is, if Antigonus Ish Socho taught them, they weren't good students. So if they could make a mistake in the statement of their rabbi, and they diluted it or misread it, misinterpreted it, whatever it is, how could the Mishnah here mention it? In other words, we mentioned this Mishnah about Antigonus. Come along, Baitos and Sadok, and they say there is no reward punishment. But the Rabbi said there is. We have a tradition that there is. It's all throughout Tanakh. So how could it be? How could it be that we're going to mention Antigonus Ish Socho as part of this Mishnah if they're going to misinterpret it? So what happened? So the answer is they didn't misinterpret what he said. They already had their doubts. They already had their doubts in belief, and they wanted to shirk off their responsibility. They wanted to say, we know there is no reward and punishment. That's it. We don't have to do anything. So they deny the yoke of heaven. They deny the authority of the rabbis. Famous story with the student of Chaim Brisker. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may be blessed. Taught in the Volozhin Yeshiva, one of the great dynasty, the great Brisk dynasty. He had a student that went sour. That went off. And he wasn't religious anymore. So Chaim met this student many years later. And he asked him, he said, what happened? He said, what happened to you? So the student said he had doubts in Emunah. He had doubts in faith and belief in God. He had a lot of doubts. So Chaim asked him, if you have doubts, when did you have the doubts? Did you have the doubts when you're in yeshiva? Or after you left the yeshiva? The student answered he had doubts after he left the yeshiva. So Rav Chaim said, oh, you had doubts after you left yeshiva. I can't answer an answer. You already have the answer. Right? That's why it says.
Right.
That's why it says in the Haggadah. It says in the Haggadah for Passover. There are 4 sons. Right? A wise son, a wicked son, a simple son, and one does not ask. So the wicked son, it sounds like my Boston accent, wicked awesome. Right? The wicked son, the evil son, and the wise son ask very similar questions. The wise son, you give him an answer. Saying you can't eat after the Paschal offering. The wicked son, you blunt his teeth and you say, had you been there in Egypt, you never would have got brought out. You would have stayed in Egypt. So everybody asks, why don't you give an answer? Why don't you try and draw him closer? He deserves an answer. Everybody deserves an answer. What about Kiruv? Draw him closer. Right? But he's coming with an attitude. And I hear this a lot from people. You know, people who cop an attitude. And what's the attitude? The attitude is, I think this and I think that and whatever. You know, they have their own idea. They have their own agenda. So you can't answer an answer with an answer. You know, like somebody says, I think Judaism discriminates against women. What's the answer to that? You say, oh. The person comes back and says, I really think Judaism discriminates against women. It's not fair. What's the answer? You say, oh. So this guy gets upset. Or this woman gets upset. And why do you keep saying, oh? Well, you haven't asked me a question. You've made statements. Right? So the person comes back. If I were to say that Judaism discriminates against women, and what does the Torah say? What would you say? He said, that's a question. But you made statements. You showed me an agenda. I can't answer that. I think this and I think that. Okay. You're not asking me a question. So by the evil son, you blunt his teeth. You don't even give him an answer because he's not there. He's not there. So if we look at the way God runs the world, it's very easy to have doubts. Right? This is the power of the evil inclination. As the Chovos Levavos and Duties of the Heart says, that the evil inclination works 24/7. All the evil inclination wants to do is make you have doubts. Right? Make you make mistakes, have doubts. And you'll see throughout time, there were millions of Jews in Russia cut off from their religion. Lot sent to Siberia, lot killed. Pogroms, Holocausts throughout the millennium. Then you got the question, why are some people rich? Why are they poor? Why are some healthy? Why others are in poor health? Why some long lives, others die young? There are a lot of questions. You know, someone will ask, well, where was God during the Holocaust? Look, 6 million people died. 6 million Jews died. Where was God? So what's the answer? He's where he always is. What was the question? He said, but look, he killed 6 million Jews. Takes a lot of people to kill 6 million Jews. You had the Latvians, you had the Ukrainians, you had the Russians, you had the Germans, you had the Poles. Now, people killed people. Question is not where was God. Question is where was man. So I got a great book. It's called Hasidic Tales of the Holocaust. You want to read it? Say, no, I just asked this question to rabbis because it makes them fidget. Right? So you can't answer. People have an agenda. You have to see where the question's coming from. If they ask a question, and a lot of times they're making statements. Someone just told me the other day, I will not get political, but all this stuff and Trump this and Trump that, and we're going to go to war. It's going to be his fault and all going on and on and on. Well, what was my reaction? Okay.
Oh.
What are you going to say? What are you going to say? There's no statement, right? They have an agenda. I'm not going to change it. They're not interested in my opinion. You move on.
Yeah, it's like biting on a fish lure if you even dare.
Right.
Nice.
So the Chofetz Chaim answered with a parable about a guest who goes to synagogue on Shabbos. Right? Someone goes to a new synagogue, and when they read the Torah, call out 7 people to come, and read the Torah. Right? They get, they called up to the Torah. The Torah is being read, and the guy looks. And says, "What's going on?" It seems like people are being called up in a random way. So at the end of the prayers, the guest is astonished, and the guest goes to the Rabbi. Right? The Rabbi is one who calls up people to do different things during the service. And he says, "What's going on here? Doesn't make sense." So the Rabbi says, "This is the first time you're in synagogue. You've never been here. This is your first time." Right? So it looks a little bit difficult in his eyes. But someone who's been there and, prayed there on a regular basis, they know it's organized. Right? One person says, this person should have been called to the Torah. Why wasn't he called to the Torah? Because he was called to the Torah last week. Yeah, this one got called. So why did this one get called up? Because he had a yard site. Father died, mother died, whatever, right? So it's the anniversary of the death. So he got called up. So we started chastising him. The guy started yelling at him, right? And he says, "You're new here. All of a sudden, you want to know all the intricacies of how things work? You have no idea. You're a bystander. You're a bystander." So we'll make it a little more graphic in this world. What does the person see in this world? See evil. See a tremendous amount of evil. We see people that are rich stomp on other people, think they're God's gift to the world. Fame, right? Think they're God's gift to the world. They see righteous people suffer. One person gets long life. Another dies young. Seems like there's no order in this world. What's the reality? The reality is God brings down souls in the world to bring the world to its potential. So it's going to increase in heavenly honor. Right? When a soul comes back to this world, it can be punished or go through things for things it did previously. Right? It can be reincarnated and go through all kinds of things. We have no idea. So when a Jew dies, goes to the next world, right? What's the prayer that's said for them? Kaddish. Skadav v'yiskadash. Sanctify God's name. Call God's name great. What does that do? It completes what he was lacking in this world. Helps him in the next world. Can't even imagine. Can't even imagine what that does. Because, each soul, I'll get back to that in a second. Each soul has potential. Right? Some do it in a few years, some in many years, some suffer, some have it easier. So some will seek out suffering, so it'll atone for them. In other words, if they suffer in this world, it'll be considered like an atonement. Not that we're looking for that, but that's what it does. Right?
Like
that certainly helps. So when a person suffers, they have it easier in the next world. So I'll tell you the following story. There was a story of some soldiers here that, playing around with the Ouija board, and they wanted to bring up souls, etc. And they brought up a soul of one of the soldiers' fathers who recently passed away. So the soldier was like a little bit traumatized. It says, yeah, how do I know it's this, it's really this soul, it's really my father? Let me ask it questions that only my father would know. And he was astonished. He got the answers, got the right answers. So the soul of the father tells his son, the son wasn't so religious, and he says, what you can do to help me, because I'm suffering tremendously, in the next world, go to synagogue and say Kaddish for me. Go say the mourner's prayer for me. And that was it. Son goes to synagogue and whatever, says his prayer, right? Says his prayer for his father. So next night, they want to bring up this soul. They say, they have this Ouija board, whatever. They say, bring up Reuven ben Shimon. Bring up Reuven, the son of Shimon. No response. Bring up Reuven ben Shimon. No response. So they somehow another soul comes up. And they ask this soul, what happened to Reuven ben Shimon? Right? What happened to the soul? So the soul answered that this soul, it's not an easy thing for souls in that world to come to this world. I mean, it's not necessarily a good thing either. A person brings down a soul using a Ouija board, right? Which is a real thing. If it's done, it's tremendously painful for the soul. Soul doesn't want to come here, or doesn't want to come back here. So what happened? So this soul said, his son went and said Kaddish. And went and said the mourner's prayer. Now, he was having a hard time, this soul. Whatever he was going through, whatever suffering he was going through. And this other soul said, because of the Kaddish, because of this prayer that he said, that the son said, you can't reach him now. He's so far up, there's no possible way to reach him. So the reality is, souls come to this world, and every soul has a purpose, right? Every person is created in the image of God, right? That's what it says, Genesis, right? Beginning of Genesis, we're all created in God's image. So therefore, when a soul comes to this world, which it never wants to do, God has to cajole it and whatever, then stuff it in the body, right? Because it's basking in God's glory. Upstairs, whatever that means. And God sends the soul back. Now, when the soul comes to this world, when a baby's born, right, that the soul's learning Torah, the Jewish soul's learning Torah, then gets smacked. Angel smacks it, forgets everything. Right, some explain that's why you have the little cliff here, because that's where you get, that's where you get smacked coming out. So the whole question, if you're learning Torah from an angel, what's the whole purpose of learning it and then forgetting it? Right? Whatever, another issue. But in general, when that soul comes to the world, it probably has gone through other things before. It's not the first time it's coming to this world. But every soul, every person has some purpose. Now, whether you fulfill the purpose or not is a different story. So, someone's going to ask the $1 million question, how do I know what my purpose is? How do I know what my purpose is? Right? What am I here to fix up? The great rabbi I learned under for many years, very much steeped in Kabbalah, once told me, now again, this isn't foolproof, but think of the most difficult thing in the world for you to do. You would rather slit your wrists and your eyeballs with glass before you would even consider doing it. Whether it's apologizing to someone, giving someone the benefit of the doubt, eating crow, I don't know, whatever whatever the most difficult thing is for a person to do, and they know what it is, most people know what it is. Now, it's not a guarantee that's what you're doing here, but it's probably a good idea. But nobody knows, right? The soul is, at least as it was explained to me according to Kabbalah, right, which I'm not very much steeped in, but the way it was explained to me is a soul will never, ever remember what it's doing in this world, what its purpose is. So there was a book called Many Minds, Many Masters, where somebody put a lot of people under deep hypnosis, and they talked about different lifetimes they were alive and different things that happened to them. I don't have an explanation. I showed this Rav to read, and he said a lot of it had to do with Buddhism and other things, and whatever. But at the end of the day, at least according to Kabbalah, we don't know that the soul doesn't know what it's doing here. So I remember I was explaining, to about 18, 19-year-olds a number of years ago about reaching potential. So someone told me, imagine 18-year-old kid says, Rabbi, I'm holding better than 95% of world Jewry. He says, I want you to cut me some slack. I said, let's say I agree with you. I don't think you're right, but let's say I agree with you. What if God doesn't agree with you? What if God says you have higher potential? So someone pipes up and he says, if I keep Shabbos and I keep kosher, am I good? And then someone else says, what if I eat of this hechsher, of this rabbinic supervision, right? Maybe a weaker rabbinic supervision over food. He goes, am I good? I go, oh, he's dead. He's finished. But we don't know what our potential is. Nobody has any idea. We're only here, King David says, 70 years. If we have strength, we're here 80 years, right? You see, people live longer. Some people live shorter, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, nobody knows. So I would say if you don't know, and nobody knows what's going to be tomorrow, so you got to do tshuva today, right? We're going to see that. We'll see that in the Mishnah later, right? You have to repent today because you don't know what's going to be tomorrow. Or a person can say, when I'm older, when I have time, I'll learn. When I have free time. And who said you're going to have free time? The person keep pushing it off and keep doing things and whatever. So you're going to say, but you know what? Life is hard. And we get beaten down in life. 100%. God says, you know what? Who do you think put you there? Who do you think gave you these difficulties? In order to reach potential, you have to be put in a world. And you have to be put in within a system of boundaries in order for you either to succumb or to overcome them, to have challenges. Because if you were born, let's say, quote unquote, perfect, you go in and that's it. You go in the next world, you didn't accomplish anything. Because it's handed to you. You got to fight. You got to work. You got to say, but does it have to be that hard? Not saying it has to be so hard. Nobody has it easy. If you have money, you can have sickness. If you have money, you can have kids on drugs. You can have all kinds of issues. Everybody goes through whatever they go through. But at the end of the day, we're not resting on our laurels because we don't know what's going to be.
Rabbi, when I first met you, you said one of the kindest things to me, and it was around the topic of potential, and I said a comment about, I don't think I'll ever come up with anything in my life greater than this one discovery, and I was like, I said to you kind of that I think I reached that, and I don't know what else to do in life, and you were like, you hit me straight between the eyes about potential. And you said Hashem wouldn't keep you here. And you made a comment about, look, you're only given so many words. And the reality is you hit me right between the eyes that you are here because Hashem has you here for a purpose still. And that it was just the way you had put it was so encouraging. I says, I gotta stand behind and support this guy.
But nobody knows. That's, if you would have told me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and you would have said, okay, I'm going to give you a certain talent. I'm going to give you a certain, desire, a certain rut zone, a certain, inner thing, whatever it is, to want to learn as much and give over whatever. And you're going to inspire these people. Cause when I was teaching these kids, these 18-year-old kids, I said, wow, you teach so well. They said, where did you learn? I said, I have no teaching experience. I said, you guys are my guinea pigs. I don't know how to teach. No one ever taught me how to teach. Not at all. When I entered, I started giving class in a certain place. They gave me they gave me a trial. So I spoke in front of, a bunch of people about whatever, a certain topic. And then and so whatever, I started to speak. And then in the middle, like my mind hit something, and it hit something else. And all of a sudden I started quoting things. And I was like, where'd this come from? Like, there was like, a Gemara I learned like years ago. And like all of a sudden it's like, it's there somewhere, right? It's somewhere. Nobody knows what's in store. I mean, in my life for sure, I don't think I would have thought I would have ever left Israel. I never thought I would have come back. I would have thought a lot of things would have happened, right? It wasn't what I embarked on. It's not what I planned on by any stretch. But at the end of the day, Rabbi Lopian, one of the great Torah giants of the last generation, Zecher Tzadik Livrocho, may his name be blessed. He said, if a person wants to try and ensure that they're going to have long life, you have to work for the masses. You have to help others. You have to sort of be indispensable. Work for an organization, whatever, right? Because then, even if you deserve to die, maybe your family doesn't deserve it, and other people need you. And if other people need you, the judgment is not as strong, even if you deserve it. The judgment won't be as strong unless there can be someone else take over, right? Then that God can say, well, I don't need you. So I'll tell you the following story. I mean, got a lot of stories about potential. I'll tell one story. It's a famous story with the Netziv. The Netziv of Naftali Tzvi Berliner, Zecher Tzadik Livrocho, may his name be blessed, was the head of the Volozhin Yeshiva after Rav Chaim of Volozhin, who was a student of the Vilna Gaon. So the Netziv was a little bit of a rambunctious kid. Now, his teacher would come and he'd run away, light his clothes on fire. Like, he would do certain things, like, he's a rambunctious kid. So one night before he went to sleep, he heard his parents talking. And his parents are saying, what are we going to do with this kid? We better give him a trade or something. This kid's never going to amount to anything. He's always lighting the teacher's clothes on fire. He's doing these other things. Like, what's going to be good? He has to have a parnasa. He has to have some sort of livelihood. So anyway, the Netziv is a child. You have to understand he's a child at this point. So he goes to sleep and he has a dream. And in the dream, he's being judged in the heavenly court. Now, there's a little bit of a question on this story. He's a kid. Kid can't be judged. There's no, you're not going to get punished for your actions till after 13, between 13 and 20.
Right. Bar mitzvah.
Right? So, okay, it's a question on the story. It doesn't matter. Still a good story. So, the Netziv hears a heavenly voice, sees a scale, says, okay, bring out all his mitzvahs. All these angels come out, white angels, stronger, weaker, depending on how he did certain mitzvahs. Train loads, come, scale goes way down. So, thinking he's pretty good, doing very well. Okay, no more angels come out. Here's another heavenly voice. Bring out all his transgressions. All these black angels come out, some stronger, some weaker, looking at him to, rip him to shreds. Goes on the other side of the scale. Scale's going down. The white angels seemingly are coming up. It's not looking good. So the scale's like this. The angels are ready to shred him. Right? All of a sudden, he's still feeling like, okay, there's still hope. He's still doing all right. Then he hears another heavenly voice. And this heavenly voice says, okay, bring out all the books he was supposed to write in his lifetime. Comes his commentary on Chumash, the Emek HaDavar. Huge volumes. Humongous volumes. Bring out the Emek HaShela. Bring out these other books. And then the Netziv turns white. Now, I don't know if it's a pure soul, how you turn white. But he turns white. And he's in terror. Because he sees these black angels going to rip him to shreds. He goes, what are these books? He's screaming, what are these books? And he hears the heavenly voice. And the heavenly voice says, this is your potential. This is what you should have done in your life. But because of the path you chose, and you're choosing right now, it goes on the side of transgression. The scale breaks and he wakes up. That's his dream. He's like in a big sweat. He runs into his parents' room. He's like, Mom, Dad, bring me my teacher. I'm ready to learn. He's like, I'm ready to learn.
Little Yirat Shamayim.
And he had that dream. That dream scared the absolute dickens out of him. And then at sea, he became as great as he was. Now, why do I tell that story? We don't have dreams of what our potential is. Most people ask the question, what do dreams mean? Zero. They don't mean anything. Just like, random thoughts during the day, other things. If you're a king or a prophet, dreams mean something. For everyone else, it doesn't really mean anything. Shouldn't get caught up in them and, worry about them in general. Right? At the end of the day, nobody knows what's going to be. And if you don't know what's going to be, you can't rest on anything. You got to be driven like a crazy person and say, okay, whatever it is, God, I want you to put me in a direction where I can use those talents. Where I can help others, where I can do what I need to do to reach whatever that potential is. Now, again, we may not, did I ever think in a million years, I'd love so many non-Jews? not in a million years.
We're thankful.
As long as they're not in my family or intermarried to my family, it's great.
We're coming for you. No.
Yeah, they're coming. That's right. Listen, I got plenty of my own family. So I'm fortunate to marry to Jews. But any case, I digress. But the point is, I never would have thought I got involved in this by accident, almost by accident. Someone calls me up and I was looking for a job in Jewish outreach. That was really my field. Working with Jews, don't know anything about Judaism. And this person was giving classes, over the phone, at the time, to people in Puerto Rico and in Florida. Someone was translating, whatever, and he asked me to give a class. So I said, what should I speak about? I said, it doesn't matter. I only speak 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So I figured I'd speak about, Rosh Hashanah. It was right before Rosh Hashanah. So I spoke a little bit about Rosh Hashanah. So the person was translating and said, oh, everyone's really enjoying it. Can you continue? I'm like, say what? You only told me 10 minutes. So an hour and a half later, in this impromptu share, they said, wow, can you do this, next week? This is great, and whatever. And that's, that's sort of how it got started. But, at the end, at the end of the day, I said, well, am I qualified? You have to know what you're allowed to teach, what you're not allowed to teach, different things, right? But in the end, nobody knows. Nobody knows. People have ideas which direction they want to go. This, that doesn't always work out, right? But a person knows what their talents are. Now, there's also a question: can I make money from it? Not every talent that a person has you can make a living from. It's also true, right? But a person knows where their talents lie. They also know, if they look in the mirror, they also know, the difficulties that they have. The character traits they have to work on.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. So when it comes to potential, if the soul is here for a reason, right, and God has a purpose for it, and you have to work on something. That's what it's doing here. So as one of my rabbis said, figure out what one of the most difficult things for you to do is, because it's not going to be an easy thing to say, okay, I don't need you anymore. That's it. You're going to die when you didn't finished. You reached your potential. It's not going to be that easy. It's really not going to be that easy. A person may come back to this life in a messed up body. And the whole purpose is to live in a messed up body. The famous story with Kushner, wrote this book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And his son died tragically of progeria. right? A disease that makes the body age like it's an 80-year-old in the body of a 10-year-old. So Kushner says, I looked into my life, we're good people. Must be God doesn't run the world. Why does this happen? Now, obviously, he didn't read the end of the book of Job. I'm not saying, I'm not saying anything, about his character per se, but he missed the boat. He's a heretic. He made people feel good because they don't have to take responsibility for their actions. But if someone comes back, I'll just point this out, someone who comes back to this world in a messed up body, mentally challenged, autistic, whatever it is, it cannot be because they're being punished.
Ooh, amen.
Why not? So let me clarify before someone calls me a heretic. And that is because that child is not obligated. It can't be punished now. It can't be for now. Because the punishment only comes when between the ages of 13 and 20. So why is it in a messed up body? Because the soul must have done things before that has to come back and now get fixed up. And that's the way it gets fixed up. But not because it's a child. Because it's a child born, he's not liable. Because he's too young. He hasn't done anything wrong. There has to be something else going on. Now, someone who's ever had, God forbid, a mentally challenged child, autistic child, that's a quarter of a consolation. But it's a way to deal with it. What would Kushner say? He'd say stuff happens. If the mother smoked crack and the kid came out with deformed, it's not the kid's fault. There's a reality. There's a reality this can happen. So why did God let it happen? He let it happen. But when a soul comes back to this world, it's here for something. It's not here just to, in my language, sipping pina coladas. That's not what he's doing here. He's here to work. He's here to strive. He'll make mistakes. Right? He'll suffer in different ways. That's what this world is. It's all about struggle. And I can tell you in my own path, I have not been given one thing easy. Nothing. It's been a constant struggle in many different things. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be where I am and who I am if I didn't go through it. But a Jew prays every day, God, don't put me through this, because we can't handle it. But at the end of the day, if you don't get it, you're not going to reach potential. You're not going to struggle. So it's a catch-22. Right? It's very easy to say, someone came and died for my sins. Yeah, that's called pass the buck. It's about not taking responsibility. He did it. I'm good. Father, forgive me. Give it to him. I did this. Give it to him. Give it to him. It's great. He's got a huge soul. Unbelievable. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we can't pass the buck. We have to take responsibility. And life is hard. Life is definitely hard. But it's, when a person thinks about what they've gone through and what they go through, on a continual basis, are they the same person? Can I give strength to other people because of if I didn't go through what I've been through? Not the same. Because I can say I was there. I can say in certain things I'm still going through it. Right? And it's still hard. Not saying not. Right? But in the end, day in and day out, you're learning. You're growing. You're trying to become a better person. You'll fail. You'll make mistakes. You may make serious mistakes. But they say a righteous person gets knocked down 7 times and he gets up. But the evil inclination doesn't wait. That's the whole point here. The evil inclination puts doubts in. Right? Anyone out there who's listening? Anyone listening? Anyone who's listening, who's a Noahide, people say, it's a new religion. You're making up a new thing. Jews don't want you. Non-Jews don't want you. You can't even set up a community. Bunch of losers. You can't even set up your own place. Because no one wants to put any money down. No one wants to do anything. And people are all scattered. They're going to say, what kind of place am I going to have in the world to come? Because you have to hold on to it. The Torah says, the Torah is the tree of life. You hold on to it. You have to grasp it. So you have to put the Torah inside of you. Right? You have to change, but you have to put the Torah inside of you. God didn't say it's going to be easy. I know someone, somewhere in Texas, state as a Noahide, can't convert, it's not moving. Right? 2,000-3,000 people in this town. He's got no friends anymore because he left the church. The entire community is around the church. He said, I'm not going back. I can't go back to that. His kids get made fun of and this and that, but they're staying strong, tremendously strong. Did he bargain for that? Hell no. Right? But this person's strong as fire, and keeping what God wants him to keep, and he's learning and striving and all that. He's going to get a portion of the world to come. And his life is totally changed for the better. I say, God, wow, what a beautiful covenant. Look at what the patriarchs went through. Avram goes through all these trials. Yaakov goes through all these trials. The Imahos, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, they don't have kids. Tremendous trials. God says, isn't this a great covenant? This is a beautiful covenant. What kind of covenant is that? So the answer is, God says, if I wanted to make it so easy, I'd have every Tom, Dick, and Harry coming. I don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I want the cream of the crop. I want the ones that are going to be self-sacrifice. And they're going to give whatever it takes, even if I'm not going to give them anything. So we didn't even get the fear. Fear may have to wait till next week, right? But, but potential is one of my favorite topics because changed my life.
Right.
If you look at it in that way, don't you get up, even if life is hard? Don't you get up with a little bit more oomph in your step? You have meaning in your life. And you say, all right, how can I sanctify God's name more? How can I work harder? How can I learn more? How can I give more? That's what we want to do. We're just prevented in different ways because life beats us down. And God understands that. And, most people could be on Prozac because life is hard. Life is very, very hard. God says, of course it's hard. I made it hard. What do you think made it hard? Right? But I squeezed you. And I put you in this corner. And I did this and I did that. In order for you to do other things. And you never would have thought about it in a million years. Right? Because, with your own story as well. And everyone's got a story, of where they came from. They say, wow, how can it be? This is where I'm supposed to be. My family doesn't speak to me. Jews don't want to speak to me. Nobody wants to help me. Okay. So I got to find, inspiration. I have to find like-minded people. For a Noahide, it's very hard. Very, very hard because people are scattered all over.
We're growing though, Rabbi, slowly.
We're
with help.
Working on, Yeah, that's it. So, that's what people need. They need the strength. But you have to understand, and this is why, I bring this up, is that people have to understand what I'm doing here. What my potential is. What the Jewish philosophical outlook is. Right? So I'm just going to push this course doing for Noahides on the book Derech Hashem exactly about this to teach other Noahides. Right? About spiritual forces. What my potential is. What did the world look like before Adam and Eve sinned? And what's the purpose of the nations? Reincarnation. So these are mind-boggling ideas. I only hit on a few of them in a very small, in a very small way. It's going to give people the power to have information at their hands to give over to others. That's going to be the point.
So that's a course you're doing with Ray Peterson with
Noahide Nations? Noahide Nations. Hopefully, I'm doing an intro class on Sunday. And then hopefully, week after, we're going to do, I think, 2-hour shots. Right? 2 hours on Sunday. We're going to work our way through different, different things on in the book, The Way of God. Derech Hashem. It's a mind-boggling thing because, it changes the way people look at the world. Talking about reincarnation, I was interviewing for a job to Rabbi of a synagogue. I spoke in a Jewish community center many years ago. And I spoke about reincarnation. Figured it was a interesting topic to speak about. So when I got up there to speak, I said, okay, I just want to mention reincarnation is a Jewish concept. And 3 people fainted. I was like, get smelling salt. It's not a Hindu idea. We were here first. So these ideas are mind-boggling ideas. I mean, I only touched on a few things. But the bottom line is, I guess we'll end with this. The bottom line is that day in and day out, we have to work hard. We have to strive, and it doesn't matter how hard it is. Because at the end of the day, this is what we're supposed to be doing. All right? So a person is going to have an extra oomph in their step because even if they're not God's chosen people, but they realize there's a higher purpose out there. Be like, oh, Noahide, it's a new religion, this and that. I can keep you guys busy for the next 250 years. Plenty of things to learn.
120 at least, right?
At least 120, right? I'm giving myself double life. I don't think God want me double life. But in general, there's Jewish philosophy, there's Musar, there's ethics, right? There's Tanakh, there's Torah. There's a million things to learn. Now, as you see, we're going very fast. We're only hitting a quarter of a Mishnah in an hour and a half. This stuff is, it's really deep. Because when you look at the world, that's another aspect I forgot to mention. It's about suffering. Why do people suffer? Age-old question. There was a story here many years ago, and I shouldn't say many, a few years ago, where a child, a 3-year-old, fell in a manhole. I don't know why this manhole wasn't covered. Child falls in a manhole, child dies. Someone runs in after the child to save the child. And there was toxic gas. And this guy was in a coma. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but was in a coma. So there are 2 questions. One question is, why does the 3-year-old die in a manhole? Second question is, if the person who went to save her, why does he get in a coma? Doesn't make logical sense. He's there to save them. So you could say, well, you should have been more careful. You can't just go into a manhole. You don't know what's going to be. There's a famous story years ago. NFL player, not CFL. NFL player jumps into the water to save someone drowning. There was only one problem. He himself didn't know how to swim. Now, when I took junior life saving when I was in camp, you got to be very careful if someone's drowning because you have to know how to handle them, because if you don't, they'll drown you to survive. So You're not allowed to put yourself in danger if you don't know how to swim. You do what you can to try and save the person, but if you don't know how to swim, what happened? This person drowned. Right? So this guy's going to get upstairs. 22 years old, 23 years old, whatever. He's a young kid. You're going to say, God, why didn't you save me? What's God going to answer? He says you didn't know how to swim. I didn't tell you to jump in. He said, no, but haphazard. But I had an open heart. I had such a desire to save someone. You transgressed Coffman's 614th commandment. Don't be stupid. God says, I gave you a brain. You didn't know how to swim. How can you jump in and try and save someone? He had great motives. I'm not saying not. He had great motives, but if you don't know how to swim, you don't jump in. And if a person ran in to save his family in a burning building and he died, you say, well, he tried. God says you're not allowed to do that. Put yourself in danger. If it's a doubt, whether it's a danger or something else. But who gives you the right to put yourself in danger? God can say, I didn't want you to do that. I didn't tell you to do that, so that's it. You did it, I didn't stop you. So you think of the ethics, and you say, isn't that something God should say, wow, we'll make a sanctification of God's name. Look, he jumped in, and he saved someone's life. What a tremendous thing. But he didn't know how to swim.
Right.
The moral of the story is, if you don't know how to swim, don't jump in and try and save someone. That's not what God wants. You also have to be smart. God wants you to use your brain. You can't act on emotion. Right? People think Judaism is like, it's all about emotion, it's all about faith. I was like, no, that's Christianity. You got to think. You got to act. Right? When it comes to evil inclination, it brings all these doubts, and you got to fight them tooth and nail. And you got to think of different ways to beat it. Because even if it gets knocked down once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, doesn't matter. He's going to keep coming for blood. You can't rest. You got to fight every single day, every second of the day. You have no idea what you're going to see. You have no idea what you're going to hear. And these things have an effect on the soul. Right? As we saw last week, we spoke about how, a person's actions can have unbelievable repercussions upstairs and in this world also. I mean, there are a million things that go on. And we have no idea what we see. What we see is an upside down world. Right? But in the end, so you're going to say, so where's the motivation? How do I have the motivation? I'm already old. I'm already this. I can only do so much, this and that. So there's a Talmudic dictum. It's called tafasta meruba lo tafasta. If I grab on to too much, you ain't going to grab on to anything.
Right.
If you have a certain amount of time, take it slow. But be focused. Right? Be consistent. That was the video I made this week on the Parsha. It's about being consistent, taking little steps. Right? I know of a story of somebody who learned books of ethics, Musar, once a week, 15 minutes. That's it. He learned with somebody 15 minutes, went through Path of the Just, went to the Gates of Repentance, went to the Light of Israel by Rabbi Yisrael Solanter, went to major philosophical books on Musar. I should say philosophical books on Musar. And they finished them over the years. But if a person thinks, I need to learn this, I need to learn that, I need to learn the other thing, you got to be focused, you have to have goals. You have to take it little by little, because if you take it little by little, you're going to get somewhere. You can't take everything at once. It's impossible. And what's the evil inclination going to say? I want it all now. Instant
now, yeah. Now. More.
Right. And that's it. And what's going to happen? The person says, yeah, I'm going to jump all in. And then you're going to get fried. Because you can't handle it. You can't handle it. Or someone would say to me, you sit and learn all day. It's so easy. Yeah, try it. Day in and day out. It's hard. Strain on the brain. You may not think you're accomplishing so much, this, that, whatever. It's a whole thing. But the bottom line is, as we said at the beginning, why am I doing all this?
Right.
We're doing it because we believe it's the right thing. Get reward? The bonus. It's a chesed that God gives it to us. But even if God wouldn't give it to us, we're going to do it anyway because we believe it's the right thing to do. Right? So you're going to serve out of love. That's what we're saying. You're going to serve out of love, but if you're going to serve out of love, you have to give. Serving out of love means I have to give everything I have. Famous Chazon Ish. Guess I'll end with this story. Famous Chazon Ish, Avram Yishaya Karowitz, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, one of the Torah giants of the last generation. He wasn't a very strong person. And he used all his brain power, all his strength. And there were sometimes his family just found him on the floor. They found him on the floor because he was so weak from learning, he couldn't even make it to his bed.
Wow.
That's the exertion that he used. So, okay, we're weak today, 100%. We're not at that level. I agree. But even so, that's the self-sacrifice the person has to have. Because you have no idea what's going to be tomorrow. So what do people do? They burn time. That's what you have the weekends for. You burn it. You waste it. Thank God sporting events on. Otherwise, the world will look 10 times worse. People kill time. So the Chofetz Chaim used to say, time. People say time is money. He says, no, time is life. Time is about life. So the question is how we utilize it and what we do with it.
Wow. Well, Rabbi, that's been a beautiful lesson. I think, like you said, there's still plenty to go, even in this Mishnah 1, Chapter 3. I think you set it up pretty well for the sake of heaven or for the fear of heaven, maybe next week.
We'll get there, right? It's the first chapter, third Mishnah, right? We'll get whatever. We'll get there and hopefully start the next Mishnah. You need fear of heaven. Everyone agrees you need fear of heaven, but you can't just have fear of heaven.
Right.
Because if it's all about I'm going to fry in hell forever, forget it. No one's going to keep anything because they're just they're going to say, fine, you fry in hell forever, but I want to live life.
Right. So the big message of today's Mishnah of the ethics of the Father today has to do with the balancing of that. Not doing it for a reward, not doing it because there's no reward, understanding why you're doing what you're doing, but do it because it's the right thing, regardless.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, folks, I hope you got something great out of that. I love the way Rabbi Chaim shares with a beautiful energy to teach us. And like I say, you can always go and reflect on Pirkei Avos anytime and review and understand and get the morals. But don't be afraid to ask out and reach out to a rabbi and have them share it with you. I think you'll find they're wonderful people when you ask them questions properly. Like Rabbi Coffman said today, if you're asking an improper question, you're going to get an O. Because you're not really asking a question, right?
It has to be a question.
Exactly.
If it's not a question, then you say, oh, I know what the answer to this is. Oh, that's it.
I found that out, very quickly. It's easy to if you just understand, you're building a relationship, you're building rapport, and you're asking kindly. If you give a rabbi the respect that they're due, you'll find that they're honestly loving and caring and desirous to share the light of Torah. And we thank you, Rabbi Coffman, for sharing again today. So are we still on for next week? Are we good for that? Or is your schedule getting busy? I know you're doing so much.
I think we're still good. So hopefully, it sounds good. If everyone wants, we'll come back.
Well, Bezrat Hashem, we will have the opportunity. Now, if you want to pass that link to me, I'll try and post it up on social media with this broadcast. If you guys want to see that class that he's got coming up with Ray Peterson and the Noahide Nations, we'll post a link. Please support Rabbi Coffman. I know he's working hard. You can always catch him at his YouTube page. Just check out Chaim Coffman, Rabbi Chaim Coffman on YouTube, or feel free to drop by his website or thedoctorconversion.com, folks, and you'll see that he's doing some wonderful work, and we'd love to encourage him, and don't be afraid to reach out and support him. Rabbi Coffman, so until next week, have a wonderful week, folks. Any final words?
I think I'm done. Stick a fork in me, I'm done.
Well, thank you once again. Folks, bye for now.